Hey up, it's Steve from that old Yorkshire geek, and it's time to review Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra per Aspera, which means something like to the stars through hardship, or whatever. This is the episode where Una Chin Riley goes on trial for being an Illyrian, and it's a really, really good episode. I did enjoy it. Not as much as last week's. A lot of people like this one better than the premiere episode of Season 2, but not me. And I usually like courtroom dramas, but this were good, but I did prefer last week's episode. Right, so let's just get on with it, shall we? Let's just get the episode up and we'll go through it as usual. Right, so off we go. So we start off as usual. Here we go with the Star Trek Cinematic Universe logo. And then we have a previously on, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, where we learn about, that Una's an Illyrian. There we go. Una's an Illyrian, and she gets arrested because in the Federation, I don't know why, maybe on Earth, but why has the whole Federation made it illegal for people to be genetically modified? Because the whole Federation didn't go through the eugenics wars, did it? And genetic modification happens in a lot of planets. I think in Enterprise, I think Dr. Phlox says that there are some races out there that do genetic modification. I think even on the Denobula Triaxa, I think they even do it on there as a common thing. Anyway, so then we get a flashback. The episode begins and we get a flashback. This is young Una on her home world, which I believe is supposed to be in some nebula. I can't remember the name of it, but it's an Illyrian planet. It looks a lot like Earth. At first I thought they were on Earth. I thought they were in San Francisco, but they're not. They're on this planet somewhere that has been granted Federation status as long as they give up their genetic modifications. We saw an episode in the first season where they went to this Illyrian colony that had been granted Federation citizenship as long as they gave up their genetic alterations, but something happened and it all went wrong and all that. So anyway, so what we found out here was that she'd been hurt, had young Una, her leg had been broken. We find out more about it later on, but they were unwilling to go to a hospital because then they'd find out that she was an Illyrian and she'd been well, they're all Illyrian, but she found out that she'd been genetically modified. I think she's a broken leg, and I think the bone was sticking out a bit, and she was like glowing around the bone. I think her augmentation makes her glow and absorb energy and stuff, doesn't it? Anyway, so then we cut to Una in prison, essentially, on Earth. Captain Battelle, remember, she's Captain Pike's girlfriend. I don't know if they're still are. I think they're still are, 'cause I think in the trailer for Season 2, I think it showed them kissing at one point. So I think they're still an item. But anyway, she's been assigned to be like the prosecutor against Una. I don't know. I thought she was a captain of a starship. I could have sworn in Season 1, she was heading to her ship, but now she's just a prosecutor for some reason. Don't they have actual prosecutors that are not like running starships, that are the rank of captain? I mean, we've all seen a few good men. Anyway, but they're offering Una a deal, a plea bargain, basically. If she if she pleads guilty, she'll just get basically a dishonourable discharge. I think they call it a dishonourable dismissal or something. They don't call it discharge. But she just gets that, but no prison time, and she'll still be a member of the Federation, a Federation citizen, should I say. But she won't be able to be in Starfleet anymore, and it's a good deal. It means you won't go to prison. You'll still be a free person. But then we cut to Christopher Pike. He's gone to this planet in the whatever nebula, and apparently humans can't breathe there, but the Illyrians here. This is where Una grew up, and they've adapted to the atmosphere, but he can't breathe, so he's got a breather on. They're all looking at him. Look, so he's at a lawyer's office. Obviously, they are the same the galaxy over. And he's waiting back, with the secretary or whatever they want to be called, PA, and obviously this solicitor, lawyer, whatever you want to call him, that he's come to see, doesn't want to see him, but he says he'll wait, and then we find out that his oxygen thing is running out, and he starts, having trouble breathing, so he ends up being allowed into the office, and they make it so he can breathe in the office. So she agrees to see him. This is the lawyer, the solicitor. I think she's called Neera. I've just finished watching this, a minute ago. So I'll probably get the names wrong. No notes, as usual. You know what I'm like. I think she's called Neera. And it turns out she was a childhood friend of Una. And when Una left and her family left, she felt betrayed, and they haven't spoken for, donkey's years. But she was like a good friend of Una, who now doesn't consider her a friend. She ran away. But we'll get to that later. Right, so it basically convinces her to go and defend Una, essentially. So that's the upshot of this meeting. So off they go, back to Earth. In a bit, after he convinces it, then he leaves the case files. But she says she's familiar with it somehow. But anyway, here we are back on Earth. There's Una meeting with Neera, who's still got the same dress on. I thought it was 2 days away. She's wearing the same dress for 2 days, has she? Unless she got a faster ship back, I don't know. Maybe she didn't come with Pike in his modified shuttle, or new shuttle, or whatever it was. Anyway, so they're having a meet. They're meeting a new solicitor, and then we find out that they're not friends anymore, and Una's sorry about what happened and all that, but Neera doesn't want anything about that. She says she's doing it for all Illyrians. She's basically using this tribunal, this court-martial, whatever you want to call it, as a platform. Ooh, we've all heard that before, haven't we, to do with Star Trek. Kurtzman Trek, should I say. It's a platform, and that's what she's doing here. And there's a nice shot of the Enterprise in orbit of Earth. And I think here we go, we're in the massive quarters. There's another room we'll see in a bit. I'm thinking, how big are the rooms on this ship? It's got to be some major refit before the original series. Not that that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. As I've said, I think Strange New Worlds will just continue into the original series with Captain Kirk taking over from Captain Pike. And I think they'll just continue this Strange New World and remake the original series, but you never know. Anyway, so he's having a meet, he's talking to Battelle. Remember, his, at the moment, I think, ex-girlfriend. And they're not getting on. And because she's Una has said she's rejecting the plea bargain. And so Battelle's not happy about that. She said she had to pull in a lot of favours to get that, to get him to sign off on that deal. So she's not happy about that. Of course, he's cooking his Pike. That's all he does. He should be in his bloody captain's chair, shouldn't he? Doing captaining things, not chopping carrots. Anyway, so they leave, not on the best of terms. So we're having a meeting here. This is Admiral... Can't remember. I can't remember. But it's the Admiral in charge of the Judge Advocate General's office. So it's like a pre-tribunal meeting. And Battelle walks in with Admiral somebody or other from Vulcan. Is a Vulcan. And we find out that the change in what they're charging her with, because she's rejected the plea bargain, they're now charging her with, the original charge of, lying on her Starfleet application that she was Illyrian and genetically modified, but also charging her with sedition and other stuff. And they want her to be imprisoned, dishonorably discharged from Starfleet and imprisoned Federation penal colony for 20 years. That's where the episode, the opening credits begin. So there we go, with the nice shots of the Enterprise. There we go, and I still wish they put episode titles up. After the credits, put the episode title up. Because it's too much like Discovery. Make it like original Star Trek and put the episode title up. Ad Astra per Aspera. But anyway. So anyway, she's changed her dress as Neera. I think it's Neera. I could be wrong. And so they're talking about, what the plan is going forward. And so she's Neera's given Una's quarters on the Enterprise. So she says, fair enough. So she's talking to La'an, Nooney and Singh. And La'an wants to help, obviously. She wants to help Una. Because remember, she's Una's friend. Come on, move. Silly thing, there we go. She's Una's friend from a long time back. So remember, Una saved her life when her colony and a colony ship or something was attacked by the Gorn. She was the only survivor, wasn't she? And so she's Una's friend. Una saved her. And so she wants to help. So there we go. And she wants to... we learned that basically somebody dobbed Una in. Somebody told Starfleet about her being an Illyrian, and they can't work out who. And we learn, I think a little bit later, but we learn that La'an thinks it were her inadvertently, because she when she found out, she did like a personal log and she was angry about it. She thinks somebody else may have accessed her personal log, but we found out that was impossible in the time given. But she wants to go into Una's personal logs, and she goes and asks Uhura in a bit to access Una's personal logs, and Uhura says, no, that's against regulations, we're not allowed, we need authorization from Starfleet Command and all that. Anyway, here we are in this massive room on the Enterprise. This is obviously their version of 10 Forward. Look at the size of it, it's huge. It's like bigger than the one that were on Enterprise D. Unbelievable. I love Strange New Worlds, but this design for this Enterprise is just bonkers. Anyway, so he's talking with Batel again, and still kind of not getting on. But anyway, and at the same time, I keep calling her Navi, and it's not. It's Melissa Navi, isn't it? But it's Ortegas and Dr. Mabenga are enjoying a drinky poo, and they're looking over at there we go, at Spock and Admiral. I can't remember his name. Obviously, they're just sitting basically looking at each other across this table, and Ortegas is basically going through a conversation, of what she thinks they might be saying to each other, in a very Vulcan way. They even mentioned Kalto or whatever they call it, which I didn't know were a Vulcan game, but I've heard of it because it were on Voyager, wasn't it? I think it's Kalto. I think Seven of Nine used to play it with I forgot her name now. Naomi Wildman, didn't she? Anyway. But Dr. Mabenga says, through their body language, even though they don't seem to be saying anything to each other, says through their body language you can tell that they hate each other. So he knows Vulcans. Anyway, then Spock eventually comes over. He gets up and he comes over and he says, I apologise for that outburst. And Ortega's like, what? They were just sat looking at each other, but obviously Spock thinks it gave the impression of being an outburst. So he apologises. I thought he was going to come over and say something to Ortegas about what she was saying, because Vulcans, obviously, with their ears, have really good hearing, don't they? They heard every word that she was saying. But he didn't. So anyway, this is where La'an is asking Uhura, Ensign Uhura, to get that information from Una's personal log, and Uhura refuses. She says, no, we're not allowed. That'd be against, it'd be an illegal order, because she says, I'm your superior officer, I've given you an order, do it. She says, well, no, basically she can't, she can't follow that order, because it's an illegal order. So she refuses. Oh, good for her. What's this ship here? That's not the Enterprise, is it? The warp nacelle, the struts there look different, don't they? Sorry, I just noticed it now. Is that the Enterprise? It's supposed to be the Enterprise, but that looks different. It's supposed to be swept back, aren't they? So what's this here? What's happening? Or is it showing something else? I don't know. Anyway, so that's that. So she refuses to access. I think it's something else, isn't it? Is it showing like some sort of field? Maybe something to do with communications. I don't know. She refuses to get the information from Una's personal log. So there we go. So that's that scene. We're cut into the trial has begun, and this is Admiral whatever, I forgot her name. It's got some A's in it and a V. I can't remember. It's like Taver or I don't know. I can't remember. Which actually reminds me a little bit of Judge Nora Satie that we saw in the Next Generation episode, The Drumhead, played by Gene Simmons. It kind of reminds me of her a little bit. In her facial features. There we go. I just noticed that in the background there. There's the Phoenix. Cochrane's ship that he first broke the warp barrier with. Zephyr Cochrane's ship. The Phoenix, a picture there. They're obviously all watching it on TV. It must be like court TV. I'm watching it on the Enterprise. So they're reading out the list of charges and all that and what they're wanting, and then the trial begins with the song. No, it don't. Then what happens first? They start bringing witnesses to the stand. These are the judges. There's a Vulcan judge, and he's obviously a Tellarite, isn't he? Well, I think he is. He looks like one. Except he hasn't got tusks, but never mind. Right, so yes, he's called Robert April, Admiral Robert April, to the stand. This is a nice touch. We've seen the. I can't see it from my head. Just let me get rid of myself for a minute. There we go. You can see there. We saw these in the original series, didn't we? Like a lie detector thing. They're under oath, aren't they? And I think if they tell a lie, I think it glows red or something, doesn't it? Something like that. Anyway, so that's a nice little thing. And we also saw, I think I've missed it on this bit, but showing they were using the data cards. They called them tapes in the original series, but like little plastic cards, aren't they? We saw them use those as well, and the little displays that look like from the original series, because Akiva Goldsman says as we get closer to the original series, the tech will start looking more like what we saw in the original Enterprise, but I think he's fibbing. I think some of the stuff will look a little bit like it, but I don't think they'll go all the way. They won't have all the jelly bean buttons and stuff like that. I don't think they will, and I don't think they'll change the Enterprise either. I don't think it'll get a refit. Anyway, so he's under oath. He's talking about Una Chin Riley. I think he was her first commander in Starfleet. He sponsored her application to the Academy. So he's a good friend of hers. She served under him on the Enterprise. What's why isn't this moving? Let's try again. Come on. There we go. And they're all still watching on TV. And then we learn that obviously he didn't know she was Illyrian, and they ask him if he'd known at the time that she was Illyrian, would have he sponsored her application to the Academy? And he says no, he wouldn't. He thinks about it. They ask him several times. And then eventually he says no, he wouldn't. And I thought he'd have said something along the lines of, to be honest, I don't know. I thought he'd have been a bit more ambiguous about it. But he said no, he wouldn't have. Because it was against the law. But I'd have said, if it were me that were writing the script, and it wasn't, I'd have had him saying, to be honest, I can't answer that question. I'd have said that. Just to make him look better, basically. But they didn't. He said, no, he wouldn't have. Then Neera starts questioning him, and she's asking about the things he's done, about the Prime Directive, and how many times, basically, he's broken the Prime Directive, which is General Order 1, Starfleet General Order 1. And, it's the holiest of Starfleet regulations. But Starfleet captains break it quite regularly, apparently. So they're talking about that they do things to save lives, basically, even breaking the law. So there's all that. Then who they're talking to then? No, that's something else. Then Pike and April have a little bit of a confrontation in his massive quarters with his open fireplace, and obviously April's not happy about what's happened, and he refuses a drink. Pike offers him a drink, he refuses it, and just walks out. So their friendship's now strained because of this. Una's not happy with the way the questioning's going, but everything, it's still going to go on that way. Right, they start questioning the other members of the crew. They start with Spock, and they're all saying, basically that she's an amazing officer, she's a good officer, and she has the respect of everybody under her command, blah, blah, blah. And then they're asking them, did you ever suspect that she was Illyrian? And they all say no. And they all say, she asks, they're asked if, do you think you ever thought at any time she was hiding something? They all said no, except for Spock. And Spock says, yes, I think she was hiding something. And I thought he was going to say she's in love with the captain. But he actually says she was hiding her affinity for Gilbert and Sullivan, which were a callback to that terrible Short Trek episode where her and Spock were stuck in the turbo lift and they were singing, and I hated it. And it should be expunged from the record. But anyways, that's what's going on here. They're all asking these questions about Una, and they all think she's great. And Dr. Mabenga says, she's compassionate and empathic and stuff like that. There we go, that's that bit. They never call her to the stand. The lovely Jess Bush. There's another cool wallpaper of the Enterprise for you. Quick, grab it. Right, so we're back in Una's quarters with, I forgot her name already, Neera, and what's her face? La'an has taken a big book to her. I think this is that bit. It's the uniform code or something of Starfleet, whatever. So she's given her that. Don't know why it's a big, massive book. Well, I do, because it's there for dramatic purposes later on in the episode. But you think everything would be on pads, wouldn't you? On computerised thing. But no, it's a huge book she's brought her. And she asks La'an. Someone's got her eyes closed, hasn't she, La'an? She asks La'an if she's made any headway in working out who dobbed Una in, and she says no, I've not been able to make any progress, and she doesn't know who might have dobbed, might have given up Una to Starfleet, and she's no idea who could have done it. And Neera says, okay, thank you, and dismisses her. And she says, why do I feel like I've just been hit by a shuttle? And she says, you're welcome. So there we go. So we know that Neera's up to something. She asks her here about a name, Noonien Singh. She says, are you related to Khan Noonien Singh? He says, yes, I am. And they talk about how her family has obviously, they've still got some of the genetic traits, being part of the Noonien Singh line. They've still got some of the augment traits. They're not genetically modified, but some of it's been passed down through the family line. We don't know what it is. Never says. Maybe this is a little bit stronger than normal people. I don't know, but it never says what it is. But obviously, she's had a troubled upbringing because of it. And so she can relate to Illyrians because they've gone through similar. But the thing I don't like about this is that it's showing the Federation in a bad light. The Federation is essentially supposed to be a paradise, isn't it? We know Earth is a paradise. And the Federation, supposedly, if you want to join the Federation, you've got to basically be like Earth and Vulcan and Tellar and Andorra and all that. Planets which have, they've got to have a certain reach a certain level of sophistication and compassion and understanding. You've got to be, perfect, basically. But they're not showing the Federation in that light, in my opinion. Showing they're still a bit bigoted in a lot of ways, especially about augments and people that have been modified, had their DNA modified. Anyway, but anyway, I think that's when we learn, or this might be later, but we learn that on the planet that Una grew up on and Nera, that they were offered Federation citizenship if they gave up their genetic modifications, and some of them did, and some of them didn't, and those that didn't hid it, but then they got found out, and there were like civil strife and all this, and ended up splitting, and they ended up separating like the non-modified from the modified people, a bit like a ghetto sort of thing, and then some of them moved away. But we learned that Una's family, because their modifications weren't open, I don't know which ones you could tell just by looking, I don't know, but they could pass as normal. They went to the part of Illyria that where they could hide, anyway, and passed themselves off as non-modified. Right, we're back in court now. She's put Una on the stand. This is where she's telling her all about this, the way, how she grew up and all that, and all about the history of the colony where she grew up, and that they were offered Federation citizenship, blah blah blah, what I've just said, and all that, and that she was sorry, that they left family and friends behind, to go and live in the non-modified section of the city, and so she's apologising. She's left family and friends, and so Nera's getting a bit welling up a bit, but she's sorry. But she, she still wanted to join Starfleet because when she was younger, a Starfleet crew had visited, and she'd seen that all different. She got her eyes shut again. Look, they saw that there were all different sorts of people in Starfleet working together, different races and everything, all sorts of different people all working together, and she thought that were a noble thing, and so that's why she wanted to join Starfleet, and that's why she lied on her application. But that's that. So off they go. They're all looking sad as she's explaining what a hard life. She says, we feared for our lives, and all that. They called her Augment and Modi and all that. So a lot of vitriol thrown her family's way from the bigots out there. They even she mentions, does Nera, she talks about Earth's past. Not that I keep focusing on Earth, because it's the Federation, isn't it, which is not just Earth. That's something that new Star Trek kind of gets mixed up sometimes. At least they're separating Starfleet from the Federation in this. Starfleet's this great institution that they keep talking about, that wants to be perfect, that strives to be perfect. Just Starfleet, and they're kind of keeping that separate from the Federation. But anyway, I forgot what I was saying now. Anyway, never mind. So we'll carry on. All right, this is where she says she starts badgering her own witness. Then she says, who gave you up to the Starfleet? She keeps asking her and badgering. She even gets warned by the judge to stop badgering your own witness. And but then we find out it were Una herself that gave herself up to Starfleet. That's why they came to arrest her, because she was sick of lying. She's sick of living a lie. So there we go. So she gave herself up. Because, I said that La'an thought it were her, but we know it wasn't. Right, so then what happens? This judge, this Vulcan, I think it is an admiral, isn't he? I can't remember his name, begins with P. He starts questioning her. And he asks her about when she told Captain Pike about that she was Illyrian, and what what day it was, and how long had Captain Pike known. And he says because not only is she going to ruin her own career, she's going to ruin the career of one of Starfleet's most decorated officers, Captain Pike. And so she says the star date. She's not going to lie. And it was like 4 months. He'd known for 4 months before she was arrested. So this officer, this Vulcan officer, seems a bit like he's a bit like Nora Sati, where he's wanting, because he talks about conspiracies and stuff like that. So the plot thickens, but anyway, don't worry about it. But Neera has got a plan. There we go. She's got a book here. That book that La'an brought with the uniform code. And she says, can you read out, whatever. I can't remember the code. Statute 85, whatever. I don't know. I can't remember. But can you read it out? And she reads it out. And it's all about if, a persecuted people, asks a Starfleet officer for asylum, then that Starfleet officer, it is under his discretion to accept or deny that asylum. It says that if they are fleeing for their lives or fleeing persecution and all that, and it turns out that Una satisfied all those conditions. She was, her family were fleeing for their lives and they were suffered persecution and because she wanted to join Starfleet, she asked to join Starfleet. She basically asked for asylum. So it's a technicality that saves her career. And so in the end, they're all getting watery-eyed. And I must admit, I were a little bit, but never mind. I do anyway. Everything. Move my mouse pointer. So basically, she gets off because of this. The consult about it to the judges, and they say that because of the mitigating circumstances, in this instance, they talk about the law and stuff like that, and the law is it's about facts and all this, but there are mitigating circumstances, and they found that she did meet all these criteria for this particular, part of the law, where she was asking for asylum. And so they said that tribunal, grants that request, and all the charges are dropped, so she could return to duty. But they say, this doesn't change Federation law. Federation law is still that genetic modification is illegal, and we know that it stays illegal until the 24th century, don't we? The 24th century. Because we find that Dr. Bashir on Deep Space Nine was genetically modified, and his father went to prison for it, didn't he? So we know it's still illegal. But as far as Una's concerned, she's got off. She's okay. She can go back to duty. She's not getting a reduction in rank. She can go back as if nothing happened. Everything's hunky-dory, so she goes back to the Enterprise. And all the crew's happy to see her. And she has a nice little exchange with Neera, so they're friends again now. And Neera says, it's a start. She's sorry she couldn't help more Illyrians, says Una. But Neera says, well, it's a start. So she beams away. She goes, they all applaud. And she says, it's nice to see that there's all this Starfleet crew serving under an Illyrian commander. And they say, she says, and that's a start as well. So she beams away. She says, energize, the beam her away. There we go. And then Una says, if you're all here, who's flying this ship? And says, return to your station. So they all go back to the stations. Then Pike gives her a hug. And you can see he's being a bit emotional. And then he gives her a manly slap on the shoulder, sort of thing, and then says, well done, Commander, and that's it. And then there we go. And, that's the end of the episode. It zooms in on her face, she's back, and that's the end of the episode. And it was good. It was an intriguing episode. It was well done. It was a good courtroom drama. I'll get rid of that. I've got wrong thing. Hey, there we go. A good courtroom drama. People like that sort of thing, don't they? Lots of people saying objection and overruled and stuff like that. So who doesn't like a good courtroom drama? But I preferred last week's episode. I really did. I don't know why people are saying this is great. I mean, it's no measure of a man, is it? To be honest. But it were well made and it were good. And I were hoping they were going to talk about the Illyrians from Enterprise. Because they kept talking about the hardships that Illyrians had to endure during their existence. And I thought that were going to come up. The incident with the Enterprise, NX-01. Back in the 2153 or whenever it was, during the third season of Enterprise, when Captain Archer had to steal the warp core of an Illyrian ship so they could save Earth from the Xindi. I thought they'd mention that, but they didn't. Because they're on about the hardships that people go through. That's the point of the title of the Enterprise. Title of the episode. To the stars through hardship. It's all about the strifes that you go through and all that. But anyway, it was an okay episode. I did enjoy it. I preferred last week's episode. I'm going to give it the same score as last week's episode, although I did slightly prefer the premiere. But I'm still going to give this a 7 out of 10. Still enjoyable. I'm a big softy. I did get a bit watery-eyed at the end, when everything nice is happening. But we knew we were going to get off with it, didn't we? But I still want to know what La'an's augments might be. Inherited augmentations could be. I wonder what she can do that we don't know about. But anyway, or maybe it's nothing. Maybe it was just a throwaway line. Anyway. Right, we'll leave it there. So, give it a whirl. It's a good episode. Not as good as last week's, but everybody else seems to disagree with me. But never mind. Right, so, thanks for watching. Wherever you are, look after each other. And until next time, I'll say the...